Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. Really excited to share Dr. John DeMartini as a special guest speaker for the patient mastery community. Right before we dive into that, upcoming 6 weeks from now, Dallas, April 29th to 30th, what I'm most excited about is that we're 6 weeks away and it's already the biggest seminar we've done to date. There's already well over 100 RSVPs, registrations, and it's going to be phenomenal. New topics, new breakouts, rubbing shoulders with just awesome, awesome chiropractors who are there to both grow and help you grow and help you win. It's going to be phenomenal. 2 full days, social events each evening. And if you haven't RSVP'd yet, Jenna, if you could drop the link into the chat box to RSVP, you could bring a guest colleague, so one guest doc, and we have hotel savings links. It's close to the airport, and it's just going to be a phenomenal time. So if you've been to one in the past, each one is new topics, new content, and going to help you just get a ton of ideas and momentum going forward. That being said, so today's featured guest speaker, you may know him from being one of the experts on The Secret. You may know him from probably a dozen amazing books he's written, being featured on the biggest stages throughout the world. Personally, has contributed a phenomenal amount to my life. I love personal growth. I love growing. I love learning. And Dr. DeMartini would be in the top 5 of who I think about, who just shares absolute wisdom, not just for chiropractors, not just for making a difference in your practice, but making a difference in your life, in the world, and making everything better. And someone who stood the test of time, of decades of teaching and wisdom and quality, and no doubt decades more, which isn't the norm for most out there. I've been to his breakthrough experience seminar trainings. I highly endorse it. We're going to drop the link so you know about it. He still does them. Highly recommend, highly endorse, and we're going to dive into a couple special topics on this call and then see where it goes. So Dr. John DeMartini, outside of that brief intro, is there anything else that you'd like to just share in terms of, so the few people who may not know you already understand who you are and what you're about?
I'm a guy who loves doing what I do. I love researching, writing, and teaching and healing. And I'm out in the Pacific Ocean right now, coming from you from out in the middle of nowhere. And thank you for being with me. Thank you for having me up, or the opportunity to be with you. I see a few faces. I see George. Hi, George. I see a few people that I know that I recognize, and some I don't. So if I have never met you, thanks for being here, and lovely to meet you.
Awesome.
I don't have anything else to say except I'm just a guy that's doing my thing. I love what I do.
Awesome. And I think anyone who hears you speak can tell that. So George wrote in the comments, my greatest mentor of all time. I think this would be fun. Throw in the comment from before right now, anything you've learned or seen from Dr. DeMartini of something that's been valuable to you. Like throw it in the comments so people can see how much value Dr. John DeMartini has provided. It doesn't have to, it could be a concept, it could be an event you went to, it could be a talk you heard, but what's a memory or a moment that he's made a difference for you? So Dr. John, we're going to get into first question. The patient mastery group and the patient mastery community, we're focused on delivering the exceptional new patient experience in a chiropractic office. We all know that chiropractic doesn't have the same perception in the public as other healing modalities or medicine. Oftentimes chiropractors aren't prepared to go into practice and be successful from what they're taught in school, from many levels, both from healing to patient communication to patient management. And there's also stuff that we see taught in the profession that just doesn't make sense and sometimes gives us a bad name. And so everything we're focused on is the mindset, the communication, and the delivery of an incredible experience. What we don't really focus on or teach in patient mastery is technique or healing and the actual clinical aspect. And I'm not asking you for clinical info, but from the standpoint of influencing patient healing from a doctor-patient relationship, what would you speak on in that realm outside of the adjustment and outside any modalities you may be actually delivering physically to the patient? but from the doctor's ability to influence more patient healing.
Well, what pops in my head as you say that is a statement that I picked up when I was 18, when I was devouring a book on a genius named Albert Einstein. He said the greatest teacher is exemplification. So to the degree that we are ordered and present and bring congruency to our own life, we influence the patient. They many times come in with chaos, and if we let their chaos run us, we become chaotic. But if we bring order and take order into their lives, they bring about an organic healing process. So the more present you are, the more powerful the experience they're going to have with you. There are 6 transcendental states that I found maximizes healing consciousness. Grateful for what you do. A gratitude state is infectious. A love of what you do. If it's sincere, it's there. As Jim Parker used to call it, the love concept. An inspiration of the vision that you have. An enthusiasm while you work. Certainty in the principles. And being present when you adjust. Those 6 transcendental states magnetize synchronously, naturally right individuals that match your intention. Years ago, there was a gentleman, some of you remember Jim Sigafus. I've known him for 40-something years now. I know he's passed away now, but we had many dialogues and conversations. He saw a lot of patients. And unquestionably, there's a power in being present. So when you actually make an adjustment, we can go through a daily routine without being present sometimes. But if you actually can, in your mind's eye, see the actual articulation and bone that you're about to adjust, go into the actual anatomical structure in your mind, look at the trabecular patterns and the biochemistry of the structure, and take it down to the quantum level with your mind, closing your eyes and being present with the adjustment. The moment you're actually present with the bone, Jim called it being one with the bone. While you're actually setting up, the bone will move. Go and prove this to yourself. And it's almost effortless. Because to the degree of your presence is the degree of the congruency you have, the flow state. And that is a healing state because they suspend their judgments, which create lateralization to the autonomics, and they become present in their executive function and calm down and mitigate the volatilities of the distractions of the amygdala, which lead to some of the autonomic imbalances, and brings us back into an ordered state. So from just the psychological state, by you being present and ordered and one with the bone, you automatically bring their physiology into homeostasis, which is the objective of what we used to call innate intelligence. The educated intelligence is all the noise in the brain, all the moral hypocrisies that they're running their life by. But if you become really present and transcendental in your awareness, you automatically transcend their polarities and allow them to come to order. And then what happens is your hands, when you're present, are led to deliver the force in a way that allows the body to maximize its efficiency of use. So becoming one with the bone and taking a moment to be present It's not time that heals, it's presence that heals. It's not time that heals, it's presence that heals. The more present you are, the less time it takes to do an adjustment. Brevity is brilliance, simplicity is supreme, less is more, and pursuing the art of maximum simplicity allows you to get order out of disorder, negentropy out of entropy. And that is no matter what their condition, that helps the physiology. And the less you say, the more impactful the adjustment. Anything you do around the adjustment lessens the power of the adjustment. Once you turn on the light switch, you don't need to rub the wall, in other words. So being present and prioritizing the adjustments and doing the highest priority ABCs, not XYZs. Don't do a routine, do a priority. Identify it. Make sure you're congruent with what you stated. Watch out for routines that you do with everyone that are contradictory to what you claimed in the report of findings was required. Be present, prioritize it. There was a law called the Law of 200 that I observed when I was consulting back in the 80s to chiropractors. Law of 200 says you get 200 adjustments in a day. If you see 10 people, you'll be adjusting 20 bones per person. If you see 40 people, you'll be adjusting 5 bones per person. If you want to see 200, you adjust 1 bone per person. The more present you are and more prioritized you are, the more you magnetize people. There was a gentleman up in Quebec that used to see 1,500 a week. And I watched him do that. It was quite profound, extremely present and prioritized. Anytime we focus on the highest priority item and not allow ourselves to be distracted by any lower priority item, we maximize healing consciousness. If you don't mind, Dr. Wagner, I would like to share a story that made a difference in my practice. It's sort of a little bit on track with what we're saying, but I think it will be helpful.
Of course.
In 1982, I started my practice. And I was doing a little of everything, like many probably did. And I realized I was going to be overwhelmed by minutia, majoring in minors, minoring in majors. So I went to the Walden's bookstore, which existed at the time. And I got a book by Alec McKinsey called The Time Trap. When I read that book and underlined it and earmarked it, I summarized it into a page that you might want to draw out right now. Imagine just a page, blank page, and put 5 lines on it, equally spaced to make 6 columns. In the first column, I wrote down every single thing that I did in a day. Not broad, vague generalities like marketing. I wrote down every action that I did during a day. These are minute action steps that I did in a day. And as I was listing them, I was already becoming aware that I was definitely majoring in minor stuff and minoring in major stuff as I was listing it, but it was still worth listing. And I didn't do just one day. I took a 3-month period in my mind and thought of what I might do in any one day during that 3-month period. Because sometimes I do things weekly, or sometimes I do things every couple of weeks. So everything that I might do in a day, I wrote it down. And I broke it down into bite-sized action steps. So I didn't put marketing, I put down what I did specifically. When I broke them all down and I looked at them, I realized right off the top that I was spending a lot of my time on things that were not inspiring to me, things that were not most requiring of my expertise. And as long as I would do that, I would weigh myself down. Every human being has a set of priorities, a set of values they live their life by moment. And anytime they're doing things lower on their values, they devalue themselves in their practice. And the patients reflect that by devaluing you because you're doing it. Your patients are reflections. And anytime you're doing the very highest priority thing, you elevate that. Your deserve level has a lot to do with how well you're prioritized. When you do high priority actions, the highest priority, your self-worth goes up. When you do lower priority things, your self-worth goes down. And it's designed to do that. You're designed to have self-depreciation when you're doing things that are not really appreciating your skill, your talent, your authenticity. That primary thing, that one thing that Gary Keller talks about is that you want to become master of. After I made that list, I went to the second column. And that was an exhaustive list. In the second column, I asked, how much does it produce per hour? How much does it generate per hour? And if I spent 2 hours on it, I would divide by 2. If I spent a half hour, I would multiply it times 2. If I spent 5 minutes, I'd multiply it times 12. Whatever it is, I would find out what it would produce per hour. And as I went down that list, a number of things became evident. That a lot of things I was doing I wasn't charging anything for. And every time I was doing something that was devaluing my time, I was diluting my financial potential and blocking myself, creating my own obstacles, my own ceilings. I also realized something that shocked me, that actually being in my cubicle, which at that time was generating about $1,500 an hour, that wasn't much because it was only about $25 to $35 an hour. I mean, for an adjustment at the time. But $1,500 an hour was not the most productive thing I could be doing, which shocked me. If I went out and did a presentation at a breakfast club, a luncheon club or something, and I would generate 5 to 8 new patients, and my case visit average was $3,000, that's a $15,000 hour. So I found out that me going out and sharing my mission and message was the most productive thing I could do to generate income, which shocked me because I spent almost 10 years of college for doing the clinical. But I realized that if I spend time bringing a message and mission and message out to people, I'll have more income and be able to delegate more things. The second highest priority thing was adjusting. So I found out that I prioritized that list, and I got every single thing down to what it would produce per hour, and I prioritized that list. And it was very clear that I was going to start charging for certain things that I hadn't been charging for, and then I was going to stop doing things that weren't producing for me that I could hire somebody for much less to do. So I was holding myself back, thinking the obstacles. Well, by the time I could give it to somebody, I could have just done it. Well, they're not probably going to do it as well as I do, so I'm going to just go ahead and do it. And I kept trapping myself and plateauing myself by doing all those things that I could release and making sure it's actually productive, because sometimes I was doing things that weren't even productive. So I had to go through and do a real honest assessment of what it was producing, because when it produces something per hour, it means that I'm serving somebody's needs out there and they're willing to pay for it. If I don't meet people's needs in a sustainable, fair exchange manner, I don't have an income source. And so what it produces per hour is a reflection of how it's serving some need. They're willing to pay for it. So by going through there, I reprioritized that list based on what produced the most to the least. And by doing that, I already knew there was some things I was going to release and look at delegating and getting on to doing the highest priority thing, because me going out and doing a presentation and generating 100 new patients a month was way more productive than me sitting doing some other procedure in the office that was going to produce way less. The third column was how much meaning it had on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being extremely meaningful, 1 being no meaning or low meaning. Because when I can't wait to get up in the morning and be of service to people, people can't wait to get the service. I have proven without question that the number of patients that you can recite without hesitation with more than 1 second delay between patients' names is the number of patients you're going to see in a day. So if you can rattle off 1,000 names, your practice is going to grow. But if you stop at 60, you're going to see 60 patients in a day, out of sight, out of mind. So I realized how much inspiration is it for me to see those people. That if I can't wait to see them, they can't wait to see me. If I can't wait to meet their family, they can't wait to bring their family. I can't fake this. It has to be a sincere calling to serve. So I basically went down that meaning list and looked at what was the most meaningful things down to the least meaningful things. And then I prioritized that list. What is it that was absolutely spontaneously inspired actions that I love doing? And what are the things I felt, oh, I got to do? Anything that I didn't love to do, anything I didn't want to do spontaneously, I wanted to eventually delegate. Because if you're not in a spontaneous action mode, you're not in the transcendental mode. The transcendental mode is where gratitude, love, inspiration, enthusiasm, certainty, and presence exist, which is what is healing consciousness. So I went through then prioritized meaning. And then I compared the highest on the meaning list to the highest on the productivity list, because I wanted to find out what was most inspiring and meaningful that produced the most. It just so happened that the highest meaning and the highest productions, a few of them were identical, because I really feel like I'm a man with a message and I love sharing and teaching, but I also love adjusting. But there's a lot of things I don't want to do that are uninspiring, that don't produce as much, that I want to hand over to somebody else. So I prioritized that one. On the fourth column, I asked, what would it cost me if I delegated this action to a specialist that was more competent than me, that knew more about it, that was more inspired in it, and was highest on their values? They couldn't wait to do it. I didn't have to micromanage them or motivate them extrinsically to get them to do it. I want to find somebody that would love to do what I want to delegate. What would it cost? Not just their salary, but their space, their training, their equipment, their insurance, their parking, everything, down to the penny little stuff of the paper clip. What is it going to cost me to get that? And then I took that list and did an extrapolation on the cost. And I did a spread between what it produced versus what it cost. And I prioritized things according to the spread. So I can identify what is the most efficient thing that extracts surplus labor value out of other people's work and offer job opportunities to help the economy and also help me be free to do what I absolutely love to do that produces the most. When I got that prioritized, I realized already what I was going to be doing. The next column was, how much time do I spend on this? So I really looked at what my day was spent like and really did an assessment. Is this really priority? Am I spending too much time? Because the more time I spent with the patients, the less people I saw. I saw a perfect correlation. I was in 1,000 doctors' offices during the 1980s and early 90s. I've seen absolute certainty that that's true. The more you do, the less you're going to see. So you had to streamline, you had to prioritize, and you had to be present in order to maximize and break through ceilings in the practice. So I went through there and I looked at the time spent. And I actually organized my time so I scheduled patients, because I felt that patients deserve to be, if they scheduled to be at 5 o'clock, they deserve to be treated at 5 o'clock. I did not want anybody waiting in my office. I thought that was disrespectful, and it makes people refer nobody. It makes them not want to come back to you. So I made sure that my timing was impeccable. That was crucial. I didn't like to sit and have to wait for people. When they told me 5 o'clock, I wanted to be able to be seen at 5 o'clock. So I wanted to make sure that my time efficiencies were clean. In the final column was the final prioritization. Taking all the variables, final prioritization. When I got that completed, I broke that whole thing down into layers and hired people for the first layer. And I learned to hire the thing that you want to release first and work your way up until you get to the very thing that you do, that you duplicate yourself with a franchise or duplicate yourself with some sort of a delegation of association. So I layered those off, and I did that in October of 1982. 18 months later, I had one doctor, myself, and one assistant when I started. 18 months later, I had a 970 square foot office when I started. 18 months later, I had a 5,000 square foot office, 5 doctors, 12 staff members, with a 10-fold increase in net return. It broke through the plateaus because we spontaneously are inspired when we're doing what it is that's transcendental, that we love doing, where we have healing consciousness. We have less to do and more to accomplish. You want to get to the highest priority action. If you don't fill your day with highest priority actions that inspire you, your day fills up with lower priority distractions that don't. And the lower priority distractions are also the kinds of patients you get. Everyone here knows that when certain patients show up, they're having a certain day, and when other patients show up, they're having a more drowned day. How many know exactly what I'm talking about? There's certain people that show up when you're on fire, and other people show up when you're having one of those stinking thinking, ingratitude, attitude, doldrum, kind of days. That's because you're doing lower priority things. If you prioritize your actions and share your message with more people, the more people you meet and greet, the more you treat, and then prioritize your actions in the sense of adjusting and sticking to that and adjusting highest priority adjustments per patient, you electrify your vitality and energy, you bring order and organization, you increase the enthusiasm, inspiration, you're more grateful because you're having a buzzing day. And as you know, the busier you are, the more referrals stimulate. You break through plateaus just by being present. So it goes back to prioritizing and getting back to presence and activating what I call the cosmic AT&T system. They used to have an AT&T system at one time, but it's the cosmic system, because when your innermost dominant thought is your patient, they automatically have you on their list. I also had what I call the enchanted forest in my office. The enchanted forest was a list of every patient that came into my office, and we kept records on this big wall of how many people they referred. We had grass people that referred one person. We had little herb people that referred 3 to 5 people. And we had bush people that referred up to 7 or 8 people. And we had tree people over 10 people. And we had a list of all of them. And I used to ask the patients and have them come and see the enchanted forest to make sure that everybody was a tree person. And I would ask them, I said, well, I've noticed that I'm only seeing 1 referral here. The majority of people here referred 5 or more people. Is there something I've done that's offended you or not satisfied your needs? Have I done something that's kept you from believing and being of service here? And I would focus. That would discipline me to focus on referrals. I had a form in my office with a referral form in every adjusting room that I made sure I did it. I had a checklist that I had to checklist that on a daily basis to make sure that I was stimulating referrals and making sure I was doing internal referrals in addition to conversations and speaking engagements. So those are all things that can help you become a healing consciousness. But being present with the bone and very inspired by it, I don't know if you have a map in your mind of exactly what you want to create in your practice, but a nebulous vision creates a nebulous outcome. Your vitality in your practice is proportional to the vividness of the vision that you see and the outcome that you're desiring. What exactly is it? I had a desire to have patients from every country around the world. I had clocks from different regions of the world. I made sure I positioned my office in an area where there was hotels from all parts of the world, people coming in from all parts of the world. And I had a global map in my office where patients would come, because I found that the patients that came the greatest distance are the ones that referred the most and actually helped me the most. They're the ones that paid the most. Sometimes the worst patient is yourself. The second worst patient is your spouse. The third worst patient is your family members. The fourth worst patient is your friends. And the farther they are in space and time, the more powerful the patients and the more powerful their purchasing power, I found. So I allowed myself to have a global vision and tracked it and marked it and kept metrics of what I was achieving to hold myself accountable, to stay focused on the outcome so the vision was clear. Your vitality is proportionate to it, and any detail you leave out of the vision in your mind becomes the obstacle you face in your practice. So I used to sit in my office and close my eyes in the morning and have the appointment book on my lap and look at the appointments and look at them and made sure I knew their names, I knew their spouses' names, their kids' names, their anniversaries, their birthdays, and what their primary objective was, their primary subluxation. And I would go through there and have that memorized before I start the day so I could see it. I would see them in my mind's eye going through the procedures. And that automatically electrified the business and drew in patients. Because if your innermost dominant thought is your patient, your outermost tangible reality will become a practice growth. So those are just a few things that popped in my mind, Dr. Wagner. I don't know if that was helpful or not, but that.
Absolutely. So it's funny, we started with what would influence more healing, and it already turned into getting through practice breakthroughs just organically. So I wrote down the 6 factors: gratitude, love, inspiration, enthusiasm, certainty, and presence. And then you seem to go a deep dive into presence. What I'm curious about for everyone listening, of those 6 factors, grateful, love, inspiration, enthusiasm, certainty, and presence, did one hit you as that's the one that's missing, or that's the one that's missing most? And what I'd like is throw in the chat box, which of those 6 do you feel is missing the most? And then whichever has the most, Dr. DeMartini, can you dive into that one? So George rates presence first, which we just dove into first. Okay, let's not do presence because we just dove into presence. So any outside of presence. Wow. Okay. So between grateful, love, inspiration, enthusiasm, and certainty. Otherwise, we'll just go deeper into presence. But all right. So
Hey,
gratitude.
I can do all those.
Or yeah, let's just continue with each one. Because now I'm seeing gratitude,
let's go through
certainty.
them all.
Awesome.
All right. So let me, can I go down the rabbit hole? Raise your hand if it's okay if I go down the rabbit hole a bit. We might find that there's a gold mine if we go deep enough. I have a friend that lives on the ship here with me that found the largest gold mine in history. And that's because he didn't stop digging. Everybody else gave up. He went a little further. He found the massive, largest one ever found in history. So I'm sure that each of you have had times when you have met somebody that you looked up to and had a bit of infatuation with. Raise your hand if that's happened in your life. You look up to them, admire them, and have a little infatuation with them. And you've also had times when you look down on somebody and had a little resentment to them, kind of look down on them. Anytime you look up at somebody, you'll minimize yourself. Anytime you look down on somebody, you'll exaggerate yourself relative to it, in contrast. So if you infatuate with somebody, you're conscious of their upsides and unconscious of their downsides. And you're not mindful. If you're resentful to somebody, you're conscious of their downsides, not conscious of their upsides, and you're not mindful. And if you're infatuated, you'll minimize yourself relative to them and sacrifice. I bet you can all find somebody that was a celebrated patient that you looked up to and you sacrificed and you slacked on some of your rules and broke some of your policies in order to have them because you didn't want to lose anything you infatuate with. Raise your hand if that's ever happened. But you also have people that you resent and dislike, and you go, oh crap, this person's coming in. And you puff yourself up and get more arrogant. So anytime you look down on somebody, you're conscious of the downsides, not conscious of the upsides. You'll tend to exaggerate yourself and become conscious of your upsides and unconscious of your own downsides. Look down on them and project your values onto them and expect them to live in your values. You'll sacrifice them for you. And you're not authentic because when you puff yourself up with pride, you're not being your authentic self. You're not in your heart. You're in a judgment mode, looking down on somebody, projecting a value on them and not meeting their needs. The second you put them on a pedestal, you'll inject their values into your life and you'll end up sacrificing what's important to you for them. And that altruistic act will end up sacrificing your profits. So you're not going to meet people's needs when you're self-righteous, and you're not going to meet your own needs when you're self-righteous, if that's a word. So anytime you exaggerate or minimize yourself and not being authentic in who you are, you've lost equanimity within yourself. You have inequity within yourself, and you have inequity with some people around you, the customer in this case, the client, the patient. And anytime you do, you're going to go into a self-righteous or self-conscious, out of authenticity, out of integrity mode. In that state, you have uncertainty. You cannot have certainty as long as you exaggerate or minimize yourself. So I'm going to pick on somebody here. I'll take, who's got a thick skin? Usually do a woman, but there's mostly men on here. But do you mind if I use is it
Toby's
Dr.
got
Alex?
thick.
Can I use you for a second? Can I use that?
Yes, you may do the experiment. I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Okay. So Dr. Alex, if I walked up to you and said to you, you know, Dr. Alex, you're always nice. You're never mean. You're always kind. You're never cruel. You're always positive. You're never negative. You're always giving. You're never taking. You're always generous. You're never stingy. You're always considerate, never inconsiderate. You're always peaceful, never wrathful. Would you believe me?
Oh, I would probably tell you haven't seen me 5 minutes ago.
Okay. Would you believe that that's not believable?
Yes.
And would you agree that your intuition will be popping up moments in your life where you're starting to think of when you've been not so peaceful and a little bit more not so generous and things, they just pop up in your head. Your intuition will automatically point out the side that I was ignoring.
Absolutely.
So you can't possibly have certainty about that. If I was to do the reverse and said, well, Dr. Alex, you're always mean, you're never nice, you're always cruel, you're never kind, you're always taking, never giving, you're always stingy, never generous, always wrathful, never peaceful, you would immediately have your bullshit meter go off and it would immediately go, well, wait a minute now, I can think of times when I've been kind and generous and giving and everything else. Would you agree your intuition would do that?
Yes.
Now, but would you agree that if I said that about you and I had a subjectively biased opinion about you and falsely judge you like that, I could never have certainty. It's not true. You wouldn't believe me. There's no certainty in that. But watch this. Dr. Alex, sometimes you're nice, sometimes you're mean, sometimes you're kind, sometimes you're cruel, sometimes you're positive, sometimes you're negative, sometimes you're generous, sometimes you're a bit stingy, sometimes you're giving, sometimes you're taking, sometimes you're peaceful, sometimes you're wrathful. Would you agree there?
Yes.
Okay, you have certainty about that, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, you only have certainty when you're present with an authentic state, a balanced state, a homeostasis. Your body, your brain is homeostatic. The neurotransmitters, the neuroelectricity, the neuromodulators, the neurohormones, the hormones themselves are all set up on homeostatic mechanisms to bring things into an equilibrium, a balanced state. And so anytime we are exaggerating or minimizing ourselves, we throw our neurotransmitters, our neurohormones off, because if we infatuate with somebody, they represent prey. If we resent somebody, they represent predator. One activates the parasympathetic and lateralizes it. The other activates the sympathetic and lateralizes it. And those two systems out of balance reduces heart rate variability, reduces resilience, and we fear the loss of that which we infatuate with, and we fear the gain of that which we resent, and we create phobic states which plateau our mind state and take out our certainty. That's why it's important to be present with the patient, not judge the patient. You cannot be present with the patient if you're judging the patient, which means that reflective awareness is the most powerful state to be in for healing consciousness. So I learned a long time ago, whatever was going on in the patient that I judged, I would immediately ask, what specific trait, action, or inaction do I perceive them displaying or demonstrating that I admire most or despise most? And then I would identify where and when I display that. And the moment I display it and identify it, I come off the pride or come out of the shame, I level the playing field, I go back into my heart, and I'm now present, and I'm now certain. And I'm now grateful for them because they just revealed to me a part of myself that I disowned. Because when I'm infatuated with somebody, I'm too humble to admit what I see in them inside me. When I'm resentful to them, I'm too proud to admit that what I see in them inside me. But when I own what I see in them inside me, I don't judge. I don't have a wavering uncertainty, because anything you infatuate with occupies space and time in your mind and be brain noise. And anything you resent will occupy space and time in your mind and be brain noise. And those are the amygdala distractions that are survival mechanisms of prey and predator that keep us out of the executive function and out of the heart, which is where healing conscious and transcendental awareness is. So by asking, where do I see in me what I see in them? I level the playing field. I bring myself into equanimity. I don't judge. I bring myself into a state of equity with them. I'm not narcissistic trying to get something for nothing or altruistic trying to give something for nothing. I have sustainable fair exchange, which maximizes my desire to want to see them and maximizes their desire to want to be with me. And that's where healing consciousness is most profound. You're certain, you're unwavering, you're relentless in the pursuit of the mission. When you're in this volatile state, you're not on mission. When you're present, you're on your mission. Your mission is to be present with healing consciousness, doing what you love, being grateful for the opportunity to do it, and doing it with such precision that people are in awe by your presence. When you make an adjustment, if it's just an adjustment to you and it's not an amazing experience, you're passing up one of the greatest marketing tools inside your practice. When you see somebody who's a real masterful adjuster, you will be present and won't move while they adjust. You'll just stop. If they're present, you will stop. When I've spoken at conferences, sometimes large, 35,000, 100,000 people I've had the opportunity to speak to. If I'm present when I speak, the entire audience is present. They'll have tears in their eyes. They won't be moving. There's no fidgeting. There's just presence. That is extremely powerful a marketing tool. The most powerful marketing tool I've found. Because they just say, you got to experience this. They just automatically go, the wow factor. So you want to transcend the judgments of patients, because we all know those types of patients that we seek and avoid. We infatuate, resent, but that's actually what distracts us from being present with our patients. One with a bone. And with the second we have perfect equanimity, we see the hidden order in the apparent chaos. If you study chaos theory, you'll see that chaos and disorder means missing information, which means unconsciousness, which means you're ignoring some of the facts. So when you infatuate, you're ignoring the downsides. When you're resentful, you're ignoring the upsides. When you're mindful, you're not ignoring anything. You're seeing the human being worthy of love. The divine in them is now reflected in the divine in you, and you're present with them. That is very powerful healing. That's a state of consciousness that breaks through the boundaries, because the thing that limits us in boundaries is anybody we infatuate and resent. It was Deming who showed in his management that anybody you infatuate with, the overworker, or resent, the underworker in your mind, will run you, and you'll plateau your management skills until you can actually see the other side of the equation and bring them into order and balance, which changes them. The world around you changes to the degree that you change the perception of the world around you. So by bringing an adjustment, the word adjustment means bring to center. Abductors mean away from the center. Adductors mean come to the center. Adjustment just means balance. Ment means mind. An adjustment with a mind that's not balanced and present is not really an adjustment. It's a manipulation. The difference between a manipulation and adjustment is the presence in which you do the adjustment. So that can add to certainty. That will also increase gratitude, because if it's your highest value, and it's anytime you're doing what's highest on your value, your blood glucose and oxygen goes into the forebrain, into the executive center. That executive center is also called the gratitude center. And that automatically makes us grateful, because it allows us to see things on the way, not in the way, and allows us to be present and certain. So we automatically, and the second we have gratitude is the key that opens up the gateway of the heart. And in the heart is love, and it comes radiating out, and it window washes the mind and brings inspiration to the mind and enthusiasm to the body. Enthusiasm is not excitement jumping up on chairs. Enthusiasm is a poised, present, and powerful, productive, prioritized, purposeful state of mind. Confused today, just like we confuse love with infatuation, we confuse enthusiasm with excitement. But that's superficial compared to the depth of what enthusiasm originally meant, as like St. Augustine described. Entheos, the divine within. When we actually feel that we're called into our mission of service as a chiropractor, working with our hands, heart, and mind, one bone at a time, present. If we get in that state, I guarantee you the telephones start ringing. We break through plateaus. I think everybody here knows that innately. Am I making sense here? There's nothing on the outside. There's nothing out there. People that look at causal things on the outside look for causal solutions on the outside. As long as you blame, you're going to be looking for something to give credit to outside. But whatever you see on the outside is a reflection of your interpretation of it. You have control of your perceptions, decisions, and actions. And those misinterpretations that cause a judgment keeps you from being present and causes a wobbling and wavering uncertainties, which stops you from being grateful and stops you from being empowered. So prioritizing what you do and delegating lower priority things, prioritizing your adjustments and prioritizing what you say to people. The less you say, the more powerful your practice. When you're using words, you want to say certainty. You know, I was working with the Four Seasons Hotel, and also I've worked with Ritz-Carlton hotels, and I watched their training mechanism. I believe every chiropractor could benefit from their training because they memorize the names of everybody. If you ever walked in a Four Seasons hotel, whoever you are, everybody in the hotel knows who you are. They've got a picture of you. They've memorized your name each morning. They have certainty. Excellent. Yes, sir. They have a very clear articulations they're trained on. And it's the difference between a 4-star and a 5-star. And a 6-star is even more. They know all about your family. They know, they research you. So I was with a doctor in Chicago, and he asked me to consult with him. And I met with him the night before. We went to a restaurant, and it was just him and I. And I said, he said, I'm seeing 60 patients a day. That's about what I'm seeing. And I said, okay, well, I want you to write down every name of every patient you can think of right now. And I'm going to have you just keep writing the names down. And the second you pause and have to pause for a second, we're going to stop. And it showed it 62 names. That's all he got. I said, tonight, I want you to go home and I want you to memorize an extra 40. So you can rattle off nonstop 100 names by tomorrow, before I see you tomorrow morning. He said, okay, it's going to be okay. He said, okay. Now, if you look at the number of visits he averages, and you look at the number of new patients he had, and you look at the growth of his practice, the next day when he came in and he had those memorized, we had 4 new patients come in that day. 4 new patients. Because all of a sudden, people that he hadn't thought about, I know that how many of you have seen this proven? You're going through and you have a file day and you look at all your patients and you look at their files, and all of a sudden within a week, 20% of those people pop back in your office all of a sudden because you're now thinking about them and focusing on them. So he went and memorized the names. And I said, now that you saw the impact, you got 4 new patients today by memorizing names, go home and do 1,000 names. See if you can't go back to all your files and see what you can do. I guarantee you what will happen. And get your staff to do the same. Watch what happens. Because when you're really thinking about your patients and thinking about what they need and thinking about and caring about them, you tune into something that's non-local, a quantum effect on people. Anyway, his practice went up significantly. I also told him to start saving and investing money, because until money automatically is a reflection of self-worth. And what happens is if you start to pay yourself first, you start attracting more business. When you manage money wisely, you get more money to manage. So I forced him to increase his savings. We electronically automated it. It was automatically going to go up. We signed an agreement that was going to be done. And that forced him to get more patients. I could increase all of your practices by $5,000 or $10,000 a month, going automatically into buying some index funds or something automatically, and your practice will go up. Because if you don't take money off the top and put it into an ordered fashion that grows and asset grows, it'll automatically have unexpected bills coming in to let you know you're not valuing yourself. Every symptom of the practice is a reflection of you being authentic. If you're not being authentic, it creates symptoms in the practice to get you back to the real you. And the most valuable you is the one that you love the most. Because when you're doing what's highest in priority and you're inspired doing it, you spontaneously act, you feel grateful at the end of the day, you love what you're doing, you have all the transcendentals coming in place. That's why you don't want to do and allow yourself to do low priority things. It devalues you. And anytime you do that, when you devalue yourself, you do brain offloading and you give power to other people's opinions. And the moment you inject other people's values into your life, you cloud the clarity of your own mission and vision. And that plateaus businesses. Some people call it limited beliefs. Some people call it sabotage, whatever names they use. It's a subordination to outer authorities and distractions about who you are to be instead of being true from within. That's why I said on The Secret many years ago, when the voice and the vision on the inside is louder than all opinions on the outside, you begin to master your life. The inner vision. When you have an inner vision of a hawk, regardless of your outer vision, you grow your business. It's like Andrea Bocelli. He's world famous, even though he can't see, because he mastered his skills and became present when he sings. He's grateful when he sings. He loves what he's doing. He spends days and hours doing it, no matter he doesn't have to do it. He's inspired by it. He speaks and sings incessantly. These are signs of the master. So you want to make a commitment to your mastery. Make a commitment to mastering the adjustment. Make a commitment to mastering the language. Make a commitment to mastering reaching the people you want to reach. I know myself, I wanted to reach millions and billions of people. I didn't want to reach a few. I wanted to reach millions of people. Last year was 233 million. The year before was 250 million. So you have to be clear about your intention and clear about your mission of what you want to accomplish in your practice. That will break through plateaus, I'm certain. A plateau is a feedback mechanism to let you know you're not being authentic, you're not being prioritized, you're not being inspired, and you're believing the delusions of injected values inside your head. The second you put people on pedestals, you'll minimize yourself. I just worked with a celebrity singer the other day, and she was being intimidated by a particular singer, and she was comparing herself to that singer and was blocking herself. And what was interesting is she actually went in there and identified what specific trait, inactions does she perceive this other singer having. And it was really interesting. We went through there and identified where she had it to the same degree, quantitatively and qualitatively. And she had been minimizing herself and been too humble to admit that she had everything she saw. But it's been shown for centuries that whatever we see in other people, we have within ourselves. It's in another form, it's in our own values, but it's there, nothing's missing. The moment she did, she put on a performance at a big theater and blew her mind away. The lady that she did the exercise on, the other singer, was in the audience that day. So because she became present with that individual, leveled the playing field, the second you level the playing field and realize nothing's missing in you, at the level of the essence of the soul, nothing's missing. At the level of the existence of your senses, things appear to be missing. The things that are appearing to be missing are the things you admire or despise, are too proud too proud or too humble to admit you have, that you admire and despise in other people. And the moment you own those traits, you level, the playing field goes up. I've done that in many fields and it expanded in every area of my life by doing that. So don't subordinate to anyone. Stand on the shoulders of giants. Don't subordinate to another profession. Don't subordinate to another professional. Ordinate yourself, not subordinate or superordinate. Just ordinate. That means bring order to your perceptions and order to your practice by prioritizing what you do and being authentic. The magnificence of who you are is far greater than any fantasies you'll impose on yourself. So you don't need to minimize yourself to anyone or exaggerate yourself to anyone. Just realize that everyone's a reflection. Schopenhauer says we become our true self to the degree that we make everyone else ourself.
Hey, Dr. DeMartini, we're coming to the top of the hour, so I want to thank you so much for your time, energy, wisdom, insights, contribution, and to show you that I've been looking out at the group and see constant note-taking because of how much he's given. Can you throw in the chat what's one thing that you got today that is valuable to you, that you're committed to doing, that you can do as soon as possible to start taking value from what you heard to put it into your life? Start Yes, you can also put a thank you to Dr. John, but show Dr. John what he just shared is going to actually be tangible and produce value for you and the world. So I'm seeing prioritize and be authentic, be more present with the adjustment, one with the bone. Let's get a whole list for him to see the impact he's making just in these minutes. Memorizing patients' names, be able to name every patient, their children, their spouse. Be more present and prioritize daily schedule. Be present and do exercise to delegate. Get away from judging patients. Thank you, that was amazing. Ordinate, be authentic and be present with patients. Prioritize. Beautiful. Let's also do a verbal, audible, unmute yourself, and an actual full-on thank you to Dr. DeMartini. So unmute yourself, wait till I do a countdown. Let's do 3, 2, 1. Thank you, Dr. DeMartini.
Dr. John Martini.
That was awesome.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right,
you.
now meet yourself again. Haley or Jenna, can you drop Dr. DeMartini's website in the chat box for how to get access to, there it goes, how to get access to the weekend seminars he gives for diving deep into the breakthrough experience. We're not going to do breakouts today because we're the special guest speaker, but next Friday, we're going to do a special roundtable call where we break out into groups of 4 or 5. You bring one specific practice topic you want help with, you're stuck with, and you're going to get 3 or 4 other awesome chiropractors contributing directly to you. So that's next Friday. And don't forget to RSVP for Dallas. Dr. DeMartini, is there anything else you want to share, say, to cap off a really special presentation?
Out of the entire universe, the human being is unique. And out of the entire human, the brain and nervous system is the center. And in that nervous system is those electrical impulses, the mental impulses. And we have command over those. And as chiropractors, we're working with the most amazing structure known in the universe, the human being. We're working with the most amazing structure in the human being, the nervous system, the master controller. We're working with the most significant body part, the spine. And we have the capacity to become present with healing and adjust the spine, which is like tuning a Stradivarius. So may we attune and tune as a master, our masterpiece. And that includes our practice, our life, and our patients' lives. And just know the magnificence of who you are is greater than any illusions you may put on yourself. So know thyself, be thyself, love thyself, and let's share that with the patients. And thank you for being with me and me being with you. I appreciate the opportunity, Dr. Wagner, thank you. And look forward to seeing hopefully some of you all again somewhere in the future. Thank you for being the hands out there in the profession and leading the way.
Awesome. Dr. DeMartini, thank you so much again for your time, your wisdom, your expertise, and your energy. You could throw in another thank you to the chat just to give him more gratitude. And you guys know we're absolutely here for you. You need anything, drop it into the Facebook group. We've got calls all next week, and you need anything, we're right here. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful
love you all.
weekend.
Thank you. Enjoy.